Chapter 17, I'm going to forewarn you, if there's any two chapters in the Bible that are rejected and they'll do anything to cover it up, but it's so very clear. And the one thing about the Lord is He just tells you straight how it is. He doesn't candy coat it, and there's nothing that's candy coated about these two chapters, Revelation 17 and 18. And the only thing I can tell you is just read the text, see what it's saying. Don't try to give it an interpretation it doesn't have. Let it tell you what it's saying. And we're probably going to get it through about 4 or 5 verses tonight and get a start on it. But Revelation 17, starting in verse 1. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials. So it's still part of that account that we went through with the vials. And talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, and I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Now there's some speech in here that we're not too familiar with, but it's biblical speech. And but he's talking about the judgment of this harlot. And in verse 2 he says, With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. All right, a lot in those 3 verses. But to begin with, let's talk about what he says. He talks about the great whore. Well, first off, you're going to find out as we read through here that, number 1, she's a city. Number 2, she's a church. Number 3, she's a religion. Number 4, she's a location. Number 5, she's an office. Number 6, a seat of authority. And number 7, a woman. All wrapped up into one system. So a city, a church, a religion, a location, an office, a seat of authority, and a woman. And there may be a few more here. All wrapped up into one. There are types of her, or this harlot. There are types of her in the Old Testament. Give you an example. Jezebel is a type of her. Jezebel is talking about is spoken about in, I think, Revelation chapter 2. And the reason why she's mentioned is because it's typifying what's going on. Jezebel, we all know the name Jezebel, harlot, okay? You're going to find that just about every horror flick you ever watch that deals with vampires or werewolves or something like that, somebody's going to be named Bella, which is short for Jezebel, also with the I, Isabel. It's all the same name. And you're going to find that name used over and over and over because they can't help but follow the Bible. But Jezebel, she was a woman. Jericho, though, is also a type of an accursed city. And you have another one, Tyre, is also a city. And Tyre was known for their idolatry. It's Tyre and Zidon that contaminate the tribe of Dan to where Dan is not even mentioned when you get to the book of Revelation, chapter 7. Dan is gone. Babylon, okay, which is I'm talking about the actual Babylon. We're not talking about the actual Babylon that's located in Iraq. We are talking about a mystery form of that. But when you think of Babylon, you have to think of the religion, the Babylonian religion. See, it's a religion. Then you have Pergamus that's mentioned. Remember, Pergamus was mentioned in Revelation 2 and 3, I believe. I can't remember which one it was. No, Revelation, that could have been 3. But anyway, Pergamus means much marriage. And this is where the church is infiltrated and married to the world. But it also talks about a seat, Satan's seat is there. So Pergamus is going to be a type of that. Athens would also be a type. because he said the whole city was given over to idolatry. Now, that's just the few. I'm sure there are more that I've missed, but they're just picture after picture after picture. Your whole Bible is bringing you to this conclusion at the end. And it's also identifying to you who your true enemy is. And it's not always who you think it is. You know, right now, most of us think that, Islamists, Muslims or whatever, they're our chiefest threat. Used to be the communists. Back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, it was communist. I mean, we're all, well, communists, they're all, well, now the communists are kind of, they're there, but more worried about Islam than we are the communists. Well, not even Islam is your worst enemy. Your worst enemy is so cloaked that you don't even know it. And when I talk about the enemy of the church, I'll prove to you they're the enemy of the church. I'm talking about, I'm not, well, we'll get into it. But he mentions there Jezebel. Jezebel was a queen married to the king of Israel, Ahab, who is a type of the Antichrist. He's one of the wickedest kings that Israel ever had. And Revelation 18:7 says, how much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen. I sit a queen. And just because the names are changed doesn't protect the guilty. You've got a queen of heaven back there in the Old Testament, Ashtaroth, okay? Or Astarte, or Estar, or Ishtar, or the English equivalent, Easter. Yes, that's what it does boil down to. But you're talking about a queen. You've got a male deity and a female deity that is worshipped back there. You have Baal and Ashtaroth. And just because they change your name doesn't mean a thing. It's still the same one. Then he mentions many waters. He says, she sitteth upon many waters. And the Bible's self-defining when it comes to things like this. And the waters are defined there in verse 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest the waters which thou sawest where the horse sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And it says she sits upon many waters. In 1825, Pope Leo XII produced a medal. He produced this medal with his own image on one side and a woman with a cup on the other. And on the side read the inscription, Sedet Super Universum. I'm sure I didn't pronounce that right. But it's Latin for the whole world is her seat. Now, I went and verified this and got actual pictures of that medal, and it's saying that very thing. And it's so. It's interesting, today we have a Pope Leo the 14th. This is Pope Leo the 12th in 1825. Now, to show you what we're dealing with here, pagan Rome, not papal Rome, but pagan Rome celebrated a national festival called Septimonium. It's the Feast of the Seven Hills City. The imperial coins had a woman sitting on 7 hills or mountains. This began with Vespasian, his reign from AD 69 to 79. And it's AD 70 that Vespasian sends Titus to destroy Jerusalem. I verified that. They still have those coins. They still have them probably in museums and everything, of a woman sitting on 7 hills with a cup in her hand. And that's pagan Rome. That's the Roman Empire. And then in papal Rome, you have the same thing. You have, he mentions there the judgment of the great whore. It's described in chapter 18, verse 18 and 19. And that's just briefly, there's a lot more to it, but I'll read these 2 verses. And cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is likened to this great city? And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. And we'll get to that in chapter 18, but she's completely wiped out. And God brings that judgment upon her. Now in verse 2 there, he mentions, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So there's two kinds of fornication in the Bible. There's spiritual fornication, which is the practice of idolatry. When you were unfaithful to God and worshiped some other false god, he considered that fornication. He considered that adultery. You belong to him, and you have cheated on him. You've gone with some, Bible talks about his jealousy, not provoking the Lord to jealousy. Isaiah 23:17 gives an instance here, and he mentions Tyre. There's a lot about Tyre. I don't know enough about Tyre to really comment a lot on it, but there's a lot in the Bible about it. Tyre is connected with Satan. I believe in Ezekiel chapter 28. I believe it's the Prince of Tyre. Just a lot there, but the type is always there. Isaiah 23:17, and it shall come to pass after the end of 70 years, the Lord will visit Tyre, and she shall turn to her hire, and shall commit fornication with all the kingdoms of the world upon the face of the earth. Now, I don't think Tyre, that was way back then, actually did that, but the one that it pictures will do that. In other words, they're going to have their hand in every government on earth. In fact, they control the kings of the earth, put a lot of sway on them. Now, there's physical fornication, and the Bible mentions some things like that. Revelation 2:14. Revelation 2:14 and verse 22 says, "But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto the idols," there's the spiritual fornication, "and to commit fornication." And he says, "Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery," verse 22, "I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds." And what you've got there is this thing is going to be physical. Hard for us to believe that there could be worship in the future where there's actual fornication going on. The acts are happening. Not unusual for that type of religion back then. There's such a thing as what they called temple harlots, or, how many of you remember the song Eleanor Rigby? Just look at the words. It's talking about a church prostitute, because she died in the church, buried along with her name, and then the father so-and-so had the relationship with her. That kind of thing will be happening in tribulation. If there's one church that stands out with sexual misconduct, there's only one. Now, every church has got their list, no doubt about it. Or every denomination has their list, but nothing like that one. And they did more to try to cover that one up than anybody else. You know what Baptists did with their pedophiles? We sent them to prison. I can give you occasions when that happened. Now, some maybe got away with it. I don't know. I'm sure that's happened, but we sent some of them to prison. There were over 3,000 Catholic priests in this country that were accused of pedophilia. You think 3,000 of them went to jail? You think even 3,000 of them went to court? They got away with it. Only the worst of the worst did they ever, and they would sacrifice one here or there, but they covered it up. And you've got that kind of thing going on. And I don't want to get into it. We got children here, but verse 3, he mentions the scarlet-colored beast. Scarlet-colored beast. It has the exact description as the dragon, the great red dragon, same color. So what you've got there is the dragon is Satan himself, with the beast the incarnation of him. And the woman in the passage is directly connected with the devil, directly connected with him. So you have this stark contrast of a chaste virgin, which is the bride of Christ, versus a whorish woman, which is the bride of the beast. But you have it's a counterfeit, but it's stark contrast at the same time. And your Bible's telling you this. Verse 4, this is where the woman gets identified. It says, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. So the woman is identified so clearly that the Roman Catholic Church reclassified Revelations as a history book. They changed the date that Revelations was written and swept it under the rug of history. It's exactly what they did. If you ask any Roman Catholic theologian or priest and say, well, what about what Revelation says in 1718? They'll say, oh, that's past history. That's pagan Rome. Pagan Rome. We call that preterism. And preterism is teaching that certain scriptures were fulfilled in their entirety in the past. In this case, the entire book of Revelations, they say, is in the past and was fulfilled in 70 AD when Titus destroyed Jerusalem. The problem is, the book isn't written until 98. Jerusalem's destroyed in 70 AD. You're talking 28 years. 28 years later. So what they got to do is they predate. They say, no, the book of Revelation written in 68. It wasn't written in 68. It's so much later. John wrote everything later. Even his gospel's written later. Why? Because when he writes the Gospel of John, he has all of Paul's letters right in front of him. Because the Gospel of John, it is the gospel for us to take to the world, as far as to read. It is the gospel that talks about being saved and born again. There, the dozens and dozens of scriptures that you can use in the Gospel of John. We tell people, read the Gospel of John rather than read Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Because why? They were written early. They were written to Israel. There's a faith and works mentioned in them all the way through them. Whereas John doesn't do that. So Revelation is written about a quarter of a century after the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. And to make this fit, they got to get the writing of that book earlier. And it's just not working for them. Here's the thing about it, though. If Revelations is passed, then just take this thing, throw it in the garbage can on your way out. Because none of it happened. Except for the destruction of Jerusalem, nothing happened that's in the book. Anybody see Christ walking around? 1,000-year millennium? So what you have to do is you have to start spiritualizing everything and making it fit somehow. Technically we're in the millennium, which is an indefinite period of time, which the Bible says is 1,000 years, 6 times. But we're in this millennium. In the millennium where the lion will lay down with the lamb, the wolf will lay down with the sheep, and you can play with the snake, the venomous snake. Go to the zoo. Stick your hand into stick it into the lion's den. Stick it into the cage where you have the polar bear. There's some girl at the Cincinnati Zoo was feeding this polar bear, and she was popping grapes into his mouth. Plop, plop. And she went, and he grabbed her finger, and before she could react, he went chomp, 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 and bit it off right there. Lost her arm all the way up to her elbow. That happened at the Cincinnati Zoo. Think you're in the millennium? Want your kids riding on a tiger? Well, if you don't want your kid anymore, probably going to eat. I know they always, you always get to see the videos where somebody's, they're rolling and playing around with a tiger and a bear, and, it's probably more AI than anything else. But we're not in the millennium. And if the book of Revelations is true, and I believe that it's true to the word, None of those things happened in 70 AD. None of them. There was no worldwide Armageddon. There was no hailstones falling from heaven with fire. There was no creatures coming up from the center of the earth and stinging people and all kinds of, none of that crazy stuff happened. It's going to happen. You say things like that because you need to protect yourself. Because this thing's identifying who you are. And a Christian that doesn't see this doesn't realize that the worst enemy they've ever had is still among them. Now, I'm not saying that every Catholic you know is your enemy. I'm not telling you that. I'm talking about a church. I'm talking about a doctrine. I'm talking about an office. It says her colors are purple and scarlet. Now, this is interesting. I'll give you two verses. John chapter 19, verse 2. John 19, 2, and it says, and the soldiers platted a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they put on him a purple robe. Now, you know who did that? Wasn't the Jews. It was the Roman soldiers. It was Rome that put the purple robe on him. Now look at Matthew 27, 28. Matthew 27, 28. It says, and they stripped him and put on him a scarlet robe. One's red, one's purple. You say, see, look at the contradictions in the Bible. No. It's purple on one side and red on the other. It's a purple and scarlet robe. It's just one side's purple, one side's red. I remember when they were getting all the cardinals together over there in Rome to elect some pope, and I saw some of them in their purple garb, and I saw some of them in their scarlet garb. Purple and scarlet. Many times the pope is wearing purple and scarlet. Some, when they're not wearing black, they could be wearing purple and scarlet because it's their colors. It's the colors of their church. It's the colors of the Roman Empire. It says they're decked in gold and precious stones. Now, you may not believe this, and I can't prove this to you, but it's been stated for years and years that the Roman Catholic Church is the richest single institution on earth. Now, the vows of poverty and, the this and that, they've got things just split up, but they own more land and more businesses and corporations and you can shake a stick at. But you try nailing that down, you're going to have a big time of it. There's shell corporations and everything else. They're just protected, but they are the richest institution on earth. Her churches, especially in Europe, are decked with gold and precious stones. I mean, you go into one of those churches, man, I mean, you're looking at frescoes and everything that's on the ceiling that are priceless. Leonardo da Vinci, whoever did the paintings on the ceiling, I mean, you're looking at priceless art that's on the ceiling. Look at our ceiling. You see anything priceless up there? I think I see something look like a dove. I know. Now, her holdings are hidden. Her corporations are layered in shells. And the Bible tells us that she's going to run the largest marketplace on earth in a few years in Revelation 18, and we'll get to that. It says that she has a golden cup in her hand, having a golden cup in her hand. They call that the Holy Grail. It's image after image, and I verified it. You can go do this. I please do. Image after image of pagan Rome and papal Rome. The woman that represents the city sits with a cup in her hand. So what are you trying to say? They didn't change. Same woman. The only thing, she's like a chameleon. She changed from military to religious. She changed from an empire to 108 acres. But she's still controlling the kings of the earth. Her colors are the same. Her cup is the same. Her goal is the same. World domination. Now, if you don't believe that, you're not, well, first of all, you don't know Catholic doctrine. They believe that they're going to control the world. That's why he's called the Vicar of Christ. He is a substitute Christ on the earth. He is going to rule and reign over the earth. That is their goal. All right. Now we're just getting into it. We haven't really got to the good stuff yet. It said in verse 5, and upon her forehead was the name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. So it's mystery form. It's not the Babylon, ancient Babylon that we all have read about, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon and all that. No, this is the mystery form of the Babylonian religion. The title has 13 words in it. And by the way, in the King James Bible, it is all caps. Those 13 words are all caps. 13 is the number of evil or destruction in your Bible. It has 65 letters, which is 5 times 13. It is found in verse 5, which is the number of death in the Bible. Death and destruction. We'll find out she's responsible for all of the martyrs of Jesus. There are 25 occurrences of supercapped words other than the word Lord in the Old Testament, capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D. There's 25 occurrences. We studied these. Of those 25 occurrences, 22 are names or descriptions of the Lord. The remaining three are negative and all deal with an idolatrous city. Daniel 5:25, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin, capitalized, all caps, aimed at ancient city of Babylon. Acts 17:23, to the unknown God, aimed at Athens, which was a city wholly given to idolatry. And then here in verse 5, these 13 words, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Yep. This is the mystery form of that religion that is practiced and based in a city. Here's the thing. It's based in a city at the time of Christ. And 2,000 years into the future, it's still there. It's still the same city. Same city, same religion, same operation, just disguised differently. Not an empire, but a church. We're going to see that in verse 6, and I'm going to finish up with verse 6. Actually got through it quite quick tonight. And verse 6 says, and I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Now, when we get to verse 7, we're going to find out that the word marvel comes into play. Marveled at her. It's not that he's admiring her. Oh, I really admire her. It's not in that tone. It's gobsmacked what comes to mind. I think he was complete when he saw this. Listen, you've got John, who's been exiled to the Isle of Patmos. He's exiled under the Roman Empire. And he's probably having to work in the salt mines because that's about all there was there on that island at the time. And he was probably forced into slave labor in the salt mines, okay? He knows what the Roman Empire looks like. He knows what, what Rome is doing. And he's ushered 2,000 years into the future, and he sees the same woman that he saw then. And he just looks at her with this unbelievable, he's just amazed. This transformation, yet it's the same one. It hasn't changed in the sense that it's still that entity. He sees the same entity that sacked Jerusalem in 70 AD, spilling the blood of Christians for over 1,000 years and counting. Now, if you don't believe that, you need to get a book called Fox's Book of Martyrs. And when you get that book, you're going to see the word Catholic show up many times. And they're killing babies with swords, or throwing people off cliffs. They're torturing them to blaspheme God and to deny their faith. And it's just one account after another for a whole book. You'll about get sick to your stomach reading it. Some of the torture is, I don't know how people come up with such things. But we're talking the Dark Ages is filled with that, filled with it. where one church is persecuting another church. Church history is not the study of the Catholic Church. Church history is the study of all those Christians that were persecuted by that church. Those are the ones you need to be looking at. She just went from she's no longer pagan with military power, but pious and popish with religious power. Your Bible's telling you all this so that you recognize, because he would have never understood. When he saw that, he's just amazed at it. He cannot believe that she is transformed into something this different. When she was such a Rome ruled the known world. They're still ruling the known world. They have, it says, what does he say about the kings? It says, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. When Rome wants something done, all she does is tell the other nations to do it. You can't imagine how many wars we've been in. Another book to get, if you can find it, you'll probably have to get a used copy. I used to have two, but I gave one away. And I was at an airport and I was getting ready to go somewhere. I can't remember, I was going back to Romania for a visit or someplace. I was traveling, and I went to their bookstore and I saw this book and I went, what in the world's that doing in here? It was called Hitler's Pope. And it was about Pope Pius XII, Eugene Pacelli. And I picked that book up, and I'm cheap, man. I mean, I'll look for it to be a dime somewhere. I think I paid, I don't know, $15 for it. Time has a lot of money. But I still got that in my library, and I am telling you what. They tie both world wars to the Roman Catholic Church and how that they were the ones that instigated both wars. And here's the thing. A Catholic wrote it, and he wrote it from the Vatican Library in the basement. So much that they compelled him to reject it, to recant it. It's too late, it's already in print. He documented everything. Now, he's a Roman Catholic, not a Baptist that hates Catholics, you know. He wasn't a Baptist. He's a Catholic. He does the research in the Vatican Library. And he comes up with all this. And he proves the concord with Germany, the concord with this and with that, and what caused this and what caused that. And he links them right in with 2 world wars. Do people believe it? Do you hear that on the news? You'll never hear any of that. Listen, when you turn on your TV set, to this world there is only one church, and you are not it. That's how you know. And though she says, peace, peace, we want peace. I mean, we always get our Christmas message about peace on earth. Man, they are responsible for more wars than you can shake a stick at. Usually he doesn't, the Pope doesn't say anything. He's actually been, I always listen to him because what he says means really a lot. And he wants our president to, he likes immigration. And the only reason he likes immigration is because most of the people coming across that border are either Muslim or Catholic. And neither one of them are good for the United States when you have a full majority. The majority of this country is not Catholic. It's Protestant. Once they become a majority in any country, go check it out. They become fascist, communist. I mean, most communist countries are Eastern Orthodox, which is just another branch of the Catholic Church. Hitler, Roman Catholic, was a fascist. Mussolini was a fascist and a Roman Catholic. The other guy of Spain, Francisco Franco, Roman Catholic, fascist. Hitler was never excommunicated. There are photographs of him with, what do you call them? The guys that wear the cardinals. Photographs with him with cardinals, and they're blessing him, saying he does the work of God. And at that time, you have Pope Pacelli, who is, why is my mind Pope Pius XII. And between that group there, 6 million Jews are liquidated. Probably about 12 million people are liquidated. And all the while, the Roman Catholic Church has full knowledge of it. Now, there are some priests in some areas that are trying to save some people. Didn't say they're all evil, but the church itself, that's what the whole book's about. The whole book is about this pope that turned it. He's not even condemning his own church. He's condemning that pope. Problem is, you have that situation, that doctrine. It's their doctrine. If you want to know what's going on right now between the conservative movement in America, where you have this split, those that are pro-Israel, those that are against Israel. You say, what's going on there? Well, it's religious. It's not a political split, it's a religious split. And it's what we call, I'm sorry? Well, it's the Catholic right, but it's the replacement theology. God's done with the Jew, yeah. And the Jews that are over there don't have a right to the land. And the Jews over there aren't the Jews of promise. And God's not going to give the kingdom to them. Why? Because the Roman Catholic Church is going to have the kingdom. And now you know why Candace Owens is siding with and holding that. It's not that she's crazy or she's gone bonkers. She's just following her church. Now, the problem is that any Roman Catholic that is a Roman Catholic has to adopt that doctrine. They don't have a choice. I mean, they're either going to have to denounce Roman Catholicism or they're going to have to get in line. And a lot of them don't know yet, but they're going to find out. Because if you believe that God, like he said, promised Israel the kingdom, bring in that kingdom, then you don't believe he's going to use a church to do it, do you? Listen, that's what this whole thing is about. Now, I can tell you I think what's going to happen next. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think what's going to happen next is, the devil's got a way of creating a problem, and then he has to turn around and kind of hit the brakes and back up because he may have gone a little bit too far. Or maybe he wants to go this far, I don't know. You wait and see. The Pope's going to come out against Muslims. I mean, usually he's talking peace. He's going to come out against them because he's going to have to. He's going to have to back them out of Europe because you are not going to have the greatest marketplace on earth run by Muslims. It'll never happen. So he's going to back the Muslims out of Europe. And by his word, once he says it, all the European Union, with England, they'll all mobilize to get him out. Now, they've caused enough. See, you're going to see this ascension of the Roman Catholic Church again. They've been kind of on their back heels for probably a couple decades, 2 or 3 decades. Bad press. Nobody trusts them. Church is losing a lot. But all of a sudden now, there's been a resurgence, and it's going to continue to grow. When I say they're going to be the most powerful church on the earth, they are. But they're going to have to fix some things in Europe because of what's coming up. And listen, we're not too far away from that. So I look for the Pope to make a decision that Islam does not mix with the doctrine of the church. They do not go together. Just like, we realize that Islam and the Constitution do not go together. They do not believe in your Constitution, and we don't believe in their way of life. And that's why we're getting this conflict. But you'll notice nobody did anything about it for so long, and then all of a sudden, now they're talking about it. Because there's something getting ready to happen. So, but we're going to get more into this. We got 2 chapters of this. By the time you get to the end, you're like, okay, you can choose to believe it and accept it, that it's the Word of God and that it's the truth, or you can just become ecumenical like the rest of the world and join right in. All roads lead to Rome. So, anyway, that's enough of my ranting and raving tonight, political theater, whatever. Okay, anybody got a question or comment about tonight?